Good evening. Good evening. It is 6:30 and it is time for Winning with School Choice. Winning with School Choice. Last week I missed you all. I missed you all greatly last week. I was not able to log in. And so I said, no matter what, no matter how I'm feeling, this week I am going to make sure that I show up and give the people the information about winning with school choice. And so if you're catching the replay or if you logged in live, I am Dr. Cheryl Lynn, and this is the podcast that comes on every Sunday night at 6:30. It's Winning with School Choice, sponsored by the Florida School Choice Association. And so, if you're not following that page, go over to the Florida School Choice Association and follow that page. We're highlighting so many private schools that do awesome things in the Central Florida, the Florida area, from Lake County to Orange County to Seminole County, Hillsborough County. Just some schools that's really doing some phenomenal things. And this week, I want to shout out Icon Preparatory School, which is located in Tampa, Florida, Hillsborough County. Also, they have a campus in Jacksonville, Florida. And I believe this year they just opened a new campus. And so I just want to shout out Icon Preparatory School, who's doing phenomenal things. These young educators are definitely disrupting the status quo of education and doing some great things. And so, if you want to know more about them, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media apps, and it is Icon Preparatory School. Shout out to them. They are the Rattlers, of course, and their founder is a graduate of Florida A&M University. They have a phenomenal music program there, a band that was recently featured or marching in Bethune Cookman University's homecoming parade. And I am sure they will be in Tallahassee on this weekend for the homecoming festivities at Florida A&M University. Again, we're here tonight, Dr. Cheryl Lynn, the Winning with School Choice podcast. And tonight we're talking all about how to choose the right environment for your scholar. And I say that because sometimes it is difficult as parents to know what will work and what won't work. If you know anything about my background, you know that I came into developing a passion for school choice, raising my own four children. Um, One went to a charter school, one we homeschooled for a while, one went to a regular public school, and also we had one to do dual enrollment and virtual school, and the Orlando Math and Science Charter School and their magnet program there. And so there's so many options, not just public, private, virtual, homeschool, micro school, but there are just many options within public schools. And so tonight we want to talk about how to choose the best environment for your scholar. I want to give you some tips tonight, practical tips that you can take and you can write down and you can share with friends or family members that are trying to figure out how to find that limitless potential in their scholar and help their scholar excel academically, socially, and emotionally. And so, if you know someone that's trying to just figure out this school choice realm, go ahead and tag them in this video or share this video out to them so that they can learn all about how to win with school choice. Um, and before we jump into that information tonight, I am closely watching Texas. If you have family members in Texas, tell them to pay attention. Texas is on the clock for voting for ESA accounts, educational savings accounts in Texas, and full school choice. And so is Louisiana. Texas and Louisiana are on the clock for school choice. And so I'm interested to see what's going to happen as we continue to provide unique opportunities for scholars to unlock their limitless potential. So let's talk about it. Let's jump into tonight how to find the right environment for your scholar. And I'll say this, the first thing to know to find the perfect learning environment or the right environment for your scholar to thrive, the first thing to know is what is their learning style? What is the scholar's learning style? Online, there are many different assessments you can take to learn about your scholar's learning style. That's going to be important because If your scholar is not one that's a self starter, that's intrinsically motivated, you want to make sure that we don't choose virtual school full time unless you have someone to help guide you with the scheduling. If they're not a self starter, intrinsically motivated, then be careful about just choosing a virtual program for your scholar. The next thing I would say, that's the first thing. The second tip I would give you when finding the right environment for your scholarship to thrive, the second tip that I would give you is to make sure you know what curriculum the school is using. Ask the school, what curriculum are they using? That's going to be very important for you to know. If they're a private school, if they're a Christian school, a lot of Christian schools use Abeka. Some Christian schools use purposeful design. Some use ACE, which is accelerated Christian education. That curriculum is one that requires scholars to be self starters and intrinsically motivated. And so you want to make sure you know what curriculum the private school is using. Some private schools decide to follow the Common Core or best standards of the state of Florida. I'll say best standards because that's where we are now. And so some private schools decide to follow the regular standards, the best standards. And they use CPOMs and some of the same books that the public schools use. So the second tip is to make sure you know what curriculum the private school is using. So the first tip that I'm going to give you to finding the right environment for your scholar is number one, know their learning style. How do they work best? The second tip I'm going to give you to finding the perfect learning environment for your scholar is to know the curriculum that the school is using. What is that curriculum going to require? Abeka has a heavy load of homework. Make sure your family is set up to support that load of homework that's going to come with Abeka. It is a college preparatory curriculum. Good evening, those of you that are joining, good evening. If they're doing accelerated Christian education, that curriculum does not necessarily have homework, but how it's set up, if they do not meet their goals for the day, then it becomes homework. So if your scholar is not a self-starter and they may not meet their goals for the day, they may have some homework. If your scholar is a self-starter and you choose to do virtual school, make sure they're logging in and doing those assignments daily. That's how attendance is taken with virtual school, especially if it's Florida virtual. So make sure that they're logging in and making sure that they're completing those assignments. Another benefit to virtual school is that they can resubmit. If they're not doing well in those virtual classes, find out, talk to the virtual teacher. How many times have they submitted this assignment? Can they resubmit this assignment again? There are so many options for scholars to excel. And we want to make sure that you're finding the right environment. Today's podcast is all about finding the right environment to unlock the limitless potential in your scholars. Unlock the limitless potential. You can schedule a one-on-one school choice consultation at www.drcheryllynn.info. You can schedule and it's on your screen for you. You can schedule a school choice session, and we will look through your information to help you understand how to win with school choice. How to win with school choice is what we're talking about tonight. So the first tip that we gave tonight was for you to make sure that you understand your scholars' learning style. How do they learn? The second tip that we gave was know the curriculum that the school is using. How does that curriculum work? The third tip I will give you when finding the right environment for your scholar is the structure of the school. The structure of the school, the whole idea behind school choice is that scholars will have options to open their mind and provide educational opportunities that will help them to excel. If all schools are doing the exact same thing, there's really no need for school choice. So ask the school, what is unique about your school? What is unique about the education that you're offering? What do you do different for scholars that doesn't possibly happen in other places? If we're all bringing kids in, sitting them in a desk, teaching from the front of the room, and having them come in from 8 to 3 or 7:30 to 2:45, whatever the time limit is it truly a unique environment for your scholar? What makes that environment unique? Again, you want to ask these questions when you go to the school. The first tip was to make sure you know your scholar's learning style. The second tip is to make sure you know the curriculum that the school is using. The third tip is to know the environment that will be at that school that you're choosing, and ask the different schools what is unique about your school. The fourth tip I will give you to win with school choice and to find the learning environment that will unlock the potential in your scholar. The fourth tip that I will give you tonight. And again, make sure you write these tips down, make sure you share them with friends. How will you support my child's learning gaps? And that's not to say that all scholars are working behind. But if you know your scholar is working behind, ask the school, how are you prepared to help close the learning gap? Majority of our scholars, over 85%, have some type of learning gap from COVID-19, the learning loss, learning gap, however we're talking about it, however we label it. But how is the school prepared to help close the learning gap for your scholar? So that's a question that's going to be important. And if they have tutoring, a lot of schools have tutoring. If they have Title I, those are funds that are given to schools to offer tutoring services for scholars. If they're offering tutoring, is the tutoring just homework help? Or is it actually closing the gaps? Closing the gaps. And in order to close gaps, you have to know where the scholar is achieving. Where the scholar is achieving. And so I was doing a small group session with a few male scholars this week at Thomas Leadership Academy. And when I call those young men in to work with them, we're working through some language arts. A lot of those young men were not prepared to understand, didn't even understand or comprehend how to write a complete sentence, how to write a paragraph. We're looking at fourth and fifth graders that were possibly kindergarten, first, second graders during the pandemic. So a lot of those basics they may have missed. So it's important to understand how the school is focusing on closing the learning gaps. And the fifth and last tip I want to give you to choosing a learning environment that will unlock the potential for your scholar, their limitless learning potential. The next tip I'm going to give you is one that's very important. The last tip I'll give you is to make sure as a parent you're able, willing, and available to support your scholar. That's the last tip I'm going to give you, but I want to tell you it's the most important. Make sure you're able, you're willing, and available to support your scholar when we choose a learning environment. Sometimes that support simply looks like signing a planner or checking homework. That very simple. Other times, that support may look like, as one of our parents did last week, she showed up to the tutoring session to understand how the math teacher is helping the scholar, working along beside the teacher. Sometimes that's what it takes because you want to be able to support your scholar when they come home, to provide that assistance. The fifth and most important tip, parents, is to make sure you're able, you're available, and you're willing to help your scholar in order for them to excel. That is so important. Find out how you can partner with the school, how you can partner with the teachers to provide what your scholar needs to be successful. If it's a test or quiz they bring home, are we going to go over this again so that we can make sure you've mastered this information before exam time? That is important. Tonight, I've given you just 5 tips to help you win with school choice, to help you choose a learning environment that will help unlock the potential for your scholars. It's so important. It is so important. And I'll say this is not just a tip for winning or anything, but this is important. I will say this. If you choose a school, stick with the school for at least 2 years. Give them an opportunity, unless it is just something that you cannot work with. Try to leave your scholar in that learning environment for a minimum of 2 years and watch and see what happens. Sometimes changing curriculums, they need a little bit of adjustment time. Grades may go down before they come up. But I want you to understand how to win with school choice. So important. We have Florida School Choice Association. We have some awesome activities coming up for National School Choice Week, which is the last week in January. So I want you to be on the lookout for those. I want you to make sure that you're in the house. We're going to have a school choice fair where schools can come and set up just like a college fair, but schools will be able to come and set up. Parents will be able to come, become educated on how to choose a school, go around from table to table to learn about these schools, and hopefully they'll have some great enrollment opportunities, registration specials for you, and you'll be able to enroll your scholar and prepare for the 24-25 school year. Again, that's National School Choice Week coming up the end of January. And this year, we're doing something very special that I've just waited so long to roll out before you. We are recognizing educators in non-traditional settings. And I'm so excited for that gala. You'll hear more about it. We're recognizing private school educators, homeschool educators, micro school educators, virtual school educators. So if you know some, drop their names in the chat box so that we can reach out to them. But we want to recognize educators that are disrupting the status quo, and they're doing it dynamically in education. So this is the Apple Awards, and we're so excited to recognize these educators. We have some phenomenal homeschool educators, from some phenomenal parents that are doing awesome jobs. I know when my mom homeschooled us back in the 80s, it wasn't as much support, but she did a great job with all 6 of us and running a daycare center, entrepreneur, and homeschooling. We were getting hands-on entrepreneurship back in the 80s, when we would go to work with my mother, and she was working with us, schooling us during the day. And so we want to recognize those educators that are doing phenomenal things in non-traditional settings. So watch your email boxes, watch Facebook and Instagram and all those things. Dr. Cheryl Lynn and the Florida School Choice Association. It's going to be doing National School Choice Week. We're so excited to celebrate so many scholars. And if you are a school founder, this week you may be getting a prize, just a pop in. This is National School Principals Month, and so we have some principals that have been recommended to us just to highlight this week. And so we'll be visiting some schools and highlighting those scholars. So excited for all that God is doing in the midst of school choice with Christian schools, micro schools, and private schools, and charter schools, and even within our public schools, just phenomenal out the box educators. We see it every day. And that's one of the blessings of social media, that we've had the opportunity to now peep inside of the classrooms and the phenomenal lessons that some of our educators are doing. And it just warms my heart. It warms my heart. So thanks so much for joining tonight. Look forward to seeing you on next Sunday at 6:30, Winning with School Choice. You all be blessed.